afternoon, everyone. Hello. We are happy to present to you this interview on the application of the theory of industrialization of teaching, conceptualized by Otto Peters. So the flow of this interview, we start first, of course, with an introduction. I'll be briefly discussing the theory. Then I'll present to you our guest for this afternoon. Then we'll proceed with the Q&A proper, then the conclusion or the final thoughts about this interview, or about this theory rather. Okay, so let me start. The theory of industrialization of teaching, conceptualized by Otto Peters, is that he looked at distance education through the lens of industrialization through mass production. So he was very strong in his statement that distance education could not have happened prior to the industrialization era. So this in distance teaching or distance education occurred side by side with the industrialization, with the development of industries during that era. So for him, he said that distance education is best understood as the application of industrial techniques in the delivery of instruction, and that unless industrial methods are used, distance education will not be successful. So he was really very passionate in his stand that distance education will only be successful, okay, or will only be effective if we use the techniques and the methods used in mass production of goods during the industrialization era. So in short, distance education could be analyzed by comparing it with the industrial production of goods. Okay. So it becomes very clear that distance study is a form of study complementary to our industrial and technological age. Okay, that is according to Otto Peters. So that's just the core of the main idea of the theory of industrialization theory, okay, in looking at distance education. So for this afternoon, we are lucky to have with us our guest, Dr. Felina P. Espique. She is the Dean of St. Louis University in the School of Teacher Education and Liberal Arts. And she's actually an alumna of University of the Philippines Open University. So I'm happy that she's able to give us her precious time this afternoon. Hi, ma'am. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon, Ma'am Joy. Thank you very much for the opportunity to join you, as you, of course, do all the many activities required of you in one of your courses for distance education. So it's a blessing, of course, on my part to share with you whatever I may share relevant to the required topic and whatever I may answer for the series of questions that you will be asking. It's my pleasure, Ma'am Joy.
Okay, thank you so much, ma'am. So before we proceed, ma'am, with, of course, anchoring concepts on the theory, kindly give ma'am a brief background of your teaching modality now that we shifted away from face-to-face classes.
Okay. I'm really very glad that prior to this pandemic, to this health crisis that we are facing right now, that I was able to finish, of course, one of the very important degrees being offered by the University of the Philippines Open University, and that's particularly the graduate certificate in distance education. It was actually a timely, it's a very important degree, and it was really timely that I was able to finish it. Hence, all the different principles, concepts, and the use of all the different media that were taught, of course, by our professors in the different courses that I was able to finish through that certificate were actually a blessing, because it was through all of those that we were able to start, of course, doing all the different requirements as to how we may offer our programs via distance learning modalities. And for now, that's what we're actually using here in St. Louis University, because everybody is mandated not to be facing the students the usual way we've been doing it in the traditional mode of instruction or the residential mode of instruction. So our programs, all of our programs, our courses are being delivered via distance learning modalities. And there are two modalities that we're actually using right now in St. Louis University. We were able to call them as correspondence-based modality and online based learning modality. So these types of distance learning modalities, we were able to contextualize it, considering, of course, our situation right now in St. Louis University, because we were able to, of course, look into the circumstances, the profile of our students, of those who may avail of the CBL. We call it as the correspondence-based modality, which is actually is one of the very first model of distance learning in the history of the offering of distance learning by open and distance learning institutions. And the other one is through the use of LMS. So we're trying our very best to use all the different tips, inputs, concepts, principles in facilitating distance learning courses, Ma'am Joy. So we're also very happy that there are, of course, theories that will help us understand the requirements, of course, of distance education, and one of which is that of the uh, proposed theory of Otto Peters.
Okay, ma'am. So you were able to capture or use that theory, ma'am, in the way that you conduct now your classes. So before we proceed, ma'am, to or specific items, so we just look at how you develop first your courses, okay, before this school year, when you started in August. And according to Otto Peter, since distance education should be looked at how we produce goods, of course there are certain aspects or factors that influence capitalists or even those companies when they mass produce goods. Okay? And one of them is, of course, rationalization. Okay, so for in the production of goods, using this category, okay, we use methodical measures to reduce amount of input of time, money, and power. Using this rationalization in distance education, we look at new ways of thinking, attitudes, and processes before we jump in delivering or before we jump to the distance learning modality. Okay, so ma'am, could you help us or could you enlighten us what were the new ways of thinking developed? What were the processes that you went through before you finally launch into distance learning? Okay, what were the
Okay.
reasons, attitudes?
Okay. Yeah, thank you very much for that, Ma'am Joy. Indeed, it's really very important for us to look into how we may ensure that the services, that's the goods actually that we're to deliver to our students. So it still is a form of business, because as a learning institution, what do we deliver to our students if not the programs, right? So that's of course referring to the goods that we deliver to them. But in delivering all of these goods to them, the programs, the services, in order for them to be able to demonstrate all the learning outcomes of all of these programs, particularly in every subject, there must be a measure, a methodical measure that we need to look into, so that we will consider the requirements of time, requirements in terms of money and power. And how we were able to do that was to consider, of course, the available learning management system that we can subscribe to, so that we will be able to deliver immediately to the soonest possible time the services to our students. But of course, we did not only consider uh, those that are available on our end as an institution, because there was a need to balance also those that are available at the level, or yeah, on the end of our students. So it must be something that's manageable and economically viable on the part of the students in terms of money, in terms of time, in terms of power, and so on. So upon studying what's manageable considering their circumstances, that's when we were able to identify those that must be done in order for us to produce the modules. Because what was produced actually were the modules when we started, and that is what we're also producing for the succeeding semesters, because the modules actually are the materials where we translated the services, the roles, the activities that were usually delivered by our teachers in a face-to-face class. So, which means we really studied very well as to how we will make sure that the ways of thinking, the attitude of our students, the attitude of our teachers will really be appropriate to the requirements and to the need of our students. So there was really this orientation that we were able to do with our students. And then, of course, there were a lot of orientations and trainings that we were able to conduct for our teachers as well. And there were also assessment that were administered, especially the readiness of our students as to how they may cope with the requirements, with the demands of distance learning. So those were actually the considerations. And we did not also choose, of course, the media, especially the equipment that will be very expensive on the part of the students. So we were able to subscribe to the free LMS offered by some of our partners in the education of our students. So that's how I may answer the first question, Ma'am Joy.
Thank you so much, ma'am. So, of course, another important category in looking at distance education is division of labor. Because now, in our context, let me just share, ma'am. I don't know if this is true in your case in SLU, but as teachers now, where we also adopt online distance learning through LMS. The teachers are also, they are not just the facilitators or the one conducting the lecture, but we are also we also develop the content, we design the our PowerPoint, our slides, we create videos, we edit our videos. So we have so many, we wear so many hats right now, which we previously did not were prior to the pandemic. So we were forced to go through this without, I think, without enough time or enough preparation for us to go through this. And the tasks are not really divided among us, because all the tasks involved in the delivery were all given to the teachers. So was that also the case in St. Louis University, or did you have a division of labor where tasks were distributed to different employees? Like did you employ an editor of a video? Did you employ an expert in gadgets, etc.?
Okay. Ideally, it should really be divided according to expertise, because as you said, for now we're really wearing a lot of hats. Like we are instructional designers, we are the authors, we are the editors, and then we are also our media producers right now because of the immediate migration. Now, it's true that in St. Louis University, we have division of task in activities, but not for the authorship, not for the designing, and not for the editing and so on. Because of the immediate migration, our teachers are really wearing all of these hats right now. But it will not mean that the other activities that we've been doing during the face-to-face is not being done also by the other offices. Like for example, according to Otto Peter, somebody should do the activities for counseling. Somebody should look into how we're going to help our students in the production of the different media in order for us to make sure that we're going to continue facilitating our activities by targeting the differences also of our students. So there are identified team that will look into the quality of the work. So that's the reason why in St. Louis University, we have the so-called quality assurance team. There are also team required to think of the instructional design, and that's the UIDC. We call it as the University Instructional Development Committee. So it was that committee that identified the instructional design that must be followed and that must guide all the different teachers in designing their modules. And then there are also requirements coming from our Vice President for Academic Affairs Office to identify some staff, non-teaching and teaching, to help our teachers in the development of their instructional materials, particularly in doing the recordings for their lectures, in doing the recordings of their demonstration, especially for laboratory courses. But of course, more of the work will really come from the teachers. Because again, as I said, they are the master of their content. And because we do not have much time already to let our teachers subject their modules for, how do you call this one? For proofreading, for intensive editing, and so on. So they are the ones editing. But what happened was, especially for gen ed courses, general education courses, if there are more than 10 of them in one particular working for one particular module, at the level of the department, they were able to divide already the tasks. So there was still this division of labor among them, except for some courses that will really require one faculty to facilitate it. Hence, it's one faculty that's really required to come up with such module for that particular course. So this was how we were able to divide, of course, the tasks in St. Louis University. So we have people to go over the quality, etc. And then there are also people in charge for the instructional design and, of course, the departments who will have to monitor the administration, the delivery, and the implementation of all of those that are required in the implementation of the distance learning modality.
Okay, ma'am. So, ma'am, according to Otto Peters, of course, he said that division of labor is very important because it actually spells out whether distance education will become effective in the future. Ma'am, do you see that in St. Louis University you will have a more systematic division of labor? For example, I'm imagining at a maybe a production unit where the teacher will just go there. The teacher will just lecture, then somebody else will video, will prepare all the slides. The teacher will just enter into that production room, and then that's it. Then it there are so many people who will already be preparing the video, the edit it, prepare it, and then they will be the one to it's already a ready-made material for distribution to the students. Do you see that in the near future that you'll be having in SLU?
Yeah, every school was actually required this semester to have a tech hub, technology hub, where we're going to produce all of these video recordings for our students. And we started that with the School of Teacher Education in Liberal Arts, because even prior to the pandemic, we already have our laboratory room for BA communication. And of course, because we're not anymore conducting classes for our students in the laboratory, so for now, that's what we're actually maximizing. And because we have an in-place laboratory for the recording of all the different demonstration activities of our teachers, hence the different schools are actually coming to our laboratory, and we have our staff helping them as to how they should come up with a very good video material. But because we need to have a lot of hubs, not only for the School of Teacher Education in Liberal Arts, but even for the other schools. So that's the reason why we have this mandate already from the top management that each school should have a tech hub. In this tech hub, will do the functions of all of those that you're mentioning, Ma'am Joy. That the teacher will come to present to the staff in charge of the tech hub as to what must be recorded, what will be recorded, and it will be the tech hub that will assist them. Well, of course, in terms of content, in terms of all the other requirements, it should really come from the teacher because we need to contextualize. So we cannot really produce almost the same materials because we need to be faithful to our learning outcomes because we need to contextualize also our delivery of our courses. So that's the reason why it should still be the responsibility of the faculty to inform the people in the tech hub as to how the recording should be done, as to how it should be produced, and so on. So it will just be the responsibility of the tech hub staff to help the teacher in coming up with a very good presentation, in doing all the shooting with the proper angle, the proper projection, and so on. But in terms of content, it will always be at the disposal of the teacher. So we have that, ma'am. We started that already, and the other schools already requested for in their budget for the development in the for the implementation of the requirement of the top management that each school will have to have a hub. We call that as tech hub for every school.
Oh, okay, ma'am. The idea here, ma'am, is we really divide the task into the different employees because the teacher could not do everything. In fact, there are teachers who are still very reluctant to embrace those kind of changes. Did you also encounter faculty members like that, ma'am, who wouldn't want to embrace this kind of changes? Like in my case, I just want to cite an example where even if there's already a peer-to-peer training or mentoring just on how to properly navigate the LMS, I still encounter a lot of complaints from faculty members. Okay? That it's really so hard for them, and in fact, in one faculty meeting, they would really pound that we go to face already, but we can't. We cannot have that because it's still prohibited by the government. So how do you settle those kind of problems, ma'am, in your
I think the very reason why sometimes they are not really convinced that this can be done properly is because they do not have yet they're not yet equipped with the so-called technological, pedagogical content knowledge skills required in distance learning. And that's the reason why it's really very important for us to present to them some of the best practices and those that were done by open and distance learning institutions prior to pandemic, because that's the only time when they will realize that it may actually happen, and it can happen because of course they always believe that there is always a blessing in facing our students, but we cannot anymore do that for now because of the limitations, and we need to abide by the policies of our IATF, right? So whether they like it or not, they really need to abide by all of this, and of course they really need to make sure that they will understand how these are supposed to be done. That's why I think the attitude mentioned by Otto Peters must really must be looked into by administrators also, so that our teachers and our students will already embrace all of these changes. So I think that's the very important element that must be looked into, that must be targeted by any institution when we start already facilitating courses via distance education modalities.
So, ma'am, in a big school like yours in SLU, I remember when I was still a student there, in our class alone, in our course, I mean in our program, there are 8 sections, right? In first year, we have 8 sections enrolled in that one course. So roughly that would be for 100
or
students. Yeah,
100,
assuming
yes.
we have 50 students per class. So through mechanization process now, since we are already in online distance learning, a lot of our tasks are already mechanized. Like, for example, you just do a single video recording of a lecture, then that is already available to all your students. So through technological advances right now, um, we do not need to redo certain tasks. Okay, we just do it
Yes.
once and then we just deliver it to all of our students. Is that the way you do, ma'am, or do you still require that one class has 50 students, or in just one class, since it's online distance learning and there's no face-to-face, they are all enrolled in one class?
We still follow that there is this teacher in charge to facilitate one class. And before, if we have 50 students in one class, because of the challenges now of distance education, the university allowed that it may have 35 students to 40 students. That's how we may help the teachers. But at the same time, the use of all the different applications, machines, and so on are also fully maximized by the university. So the grading system, even the admission, the enrollment, these are all done via online services. Okay, and even in the use of all the different materials, like for example, for one course, this is being used. I mean, the module, for example, the recordings and so on, are being used by, let's say, for example, if there are 8 teachers teaching one course, they make use of the same materials. So which means, for example, for one course, the teacher will have to prepare, for example, a video recording, and then that video recording can be used by the other teacher at the other side. So there was this division of labor still in terms of preparing all of these video recordings, which still part of mechanization. So which means we share materials if these are available. So what will happen only in the administration or in the delivery will be according already to the context of the students, because as I said, you cannot discuss, for example, one lesson in civil engineering, while it's true that it's a general education subject, the same as how you're going to discuss it when you're going to use that material already for the students in nursing. So while it's true that you are using, for example, the same video recording, the same material, still the teachers are required to have it be contextualized according to the degree programs of the students, because we are targeting different learning outcomes. But as to how to help the teachers not to prepare a lot of materials, we can make use, or we allow our teachers to make use of the same materials. So that's how we were able to mechanicize, I mean, our delivery of the different services for distance learning. The facilities also, yeah, we share, of course, equipment. As I said, many of our teachers already from nursing, from engineering, they come to our com laboratory for the recording of their programs.
Okay.
I mean, for the recording of their demonstration of the different activities in their courses.
Yes, ma'am. So, the idea, ma'am, in mechanization is that you maximize the use of making um, various services which are already automatic, or you no longer do it in order to save on cost. And if teachers are able to create learning materials which need no longer be duplicated, do you see, ma'am, that in order to maximize profit on the part of a university, not necessarily SLU, is there a need, ma'am, that maybe in the future uh, teachers will be retrenched because our job now will be mechanized?
I do not think so, because while it's true that there are services that can be mechanized already, the presence of a teacher in distance education is very important, because there is a need for the facilitation of courses to to have this teacher intervention or teacher's presence, especially in the giving of feedback, in the giving of information as to how the students will understand better the different courses being delivered. So I do not see it as I do not see a time when teachers will not anymore be how do you call this one, the roles of teachers. The roles of teachers will still be very important even if everything will be digitalized, even if everything will be mechanized. Maybe it will be more of the functions or roles and responsibilities of the admission, the finance, the registrar's office, and so on, because those are actually pertaining to purely records, Ma'am Joy.
Okay, thank you, ma'am. So we also have, ma'am, another category provided by Otto Peters is on mass production. And uh, uh, this entails, of course, the production of goods in large quantities. Okay? So he said that mass production of distance education courses can enhance quality teaching because in his he says this, that mass production of distance education courses can enhance quality teaching because before producing goods in such large quantities, of course there's quality assurance. Of course they really have to check everything, and that of course in producing just one product, for example,
Yes.
a strawberry jam, okay, there is an expert in testing the taste, the quality of the taste, the ingredients, checking all that the ingredients are of quality, and then the packaging, and then the marketing. Okay, so there are
Yes.
a whole lot of experts working together before mass producing such an item, which could enhance quality. So how do we also apply this kind of concept in education, ma'am?
Okay. I think because as I said, what we are actually giving our students as part of our business, as part of our services, is to deliver the different courses for our students. And right now, what's happening is the roles of every teacher in the face-to-face class are actually carried out by our modules, right? So
Yes.
what we're producing right now are our modules for our students. And when we produce all of these modules, we really need to make sure that in the production of these modules, we're going to follow, of course, all the requirements and standards of quality assurance. Like for example, in terms of how you're going to present the title page, what's the content, the design, and so on. These are all are very important. How will we make sure that the standards are also followed even in the production of our instructional materials, not referring only to the print material, to the print module, but even in the production of the electronic version of our module. So even, for example, in organizing our course sites, these are also are very important. And that's the reason why for St. Louis University, we really have an instructional design so that our students will not feel bad that their course site are disorganized, they don't know where to go, they don't know what to open, and so on. So all of these are actually are very important. So it's really in place that while we produce all of these materials for our students, and what we do is to do coaching, what we do is to be a guide on the side, it's still very important that we follow, of course, the requirements for quality assurance. So that's really is very important because we would like to make sure that we deliver quality materials, because again, the materials that we are producing are representing, of course, our university, are representing our how do you call this one, the way we facilitate classes also in the face-to-face translated in our module. So that's how I can answer your question, Ma'am Joy.
Thank you so much, ma'am. So we still have two more categories, ma'am. We proceed with the second to the last. Okay, sorry. That's the preparatory work. Okay, so in this category, in applying it in the industry,
Okay.
It's referring to determining how workers, machines, and materials can usefully relate to each other in each production phase. So it's like how would each one work together harmoniously in order to in order to arrive at a product or an item. Okay, of course, if we are going to look at it in the if we're going to apply this concept or this category in distance education, Otto Peters said that development of distance study courses involve experts with qualifications often higher than those of other teachers involved in distance study. So, ma'am, in prior to this school year, did you employ consultants or experts who are really of high caliber when it comes to their field or in their discipline in order for you to ensure quality or before you jumped into online distance learning?
Yeah, I think so. We were able to do that in St. Louis University because that's very important. You do not really immediately consider doing this and doing that without really preparing, because planning, preparatory is really very important. So before even identifying the different modalities that we're going to use, we did our very best to make sure that we're going to follow at least the principles of how to do it. So we have, for example, this office, this a research office, and the office was actually in charge in coming up with a research tool, and the research tool was actually administered to the different students of the university in terms of their preparedness in studying, of course, using the so-called distance learning modalities. So we were able to identify the needs of our students through the help of the research and innovation office. Okay, that's of course led by Ma'am the Madrid, okay, Ma'am Bang. So we have that office. The research office of St. Louis University was mobilized to look into that one. And we also administered a questionnaire for the distance learning readiness also of our teachers as to how ready are they in terms of delivering courses via distance learning. So that was also administered to them. So that's how we were able to prepare. So there was this research data that we were able to use to make sure that we're going to do what must be done. And at the same time, we were not able to employ an outsider or a consultant paying them, because it just happened, as I said, that I finished the degree
Yes.
in graduate certificate in distance education. So all the ideas that I was able to learn from my training, it was recognized by the university to be very helpful. So as the chairman of the University Instruction Development Committee, I was also very happy that I was able to use all of those very good information that I learned from the program. So while we were able to invite people also from CHED to help us in all of this, as part of the consultation, we were able to mainly actually develop all our materials guided by all the modules that I got from UPOU. That's how we were able to work on all of those. And of course, based from our experiences also as trainers for Intel Teach Philippines and WordLinks Philippines. Because we have, of course, some courses also teaching us as to how we should deliver our distance learning programs. And aside from that, we were able to, of course, maximize also the expertise of our faculty from BA Communication, because, of course, they know exactly how you should be presenting a lesson, getting the attention of our audience, of your audience, when you deliver a speech, a talk, and so on. So we have insiders who are already our experts in their own respective discipline, which are also are very important. And aside from that, we were able to engage also our experts in the IT program, because actually one of the centers of excellence in the entire Philippines in terms of program is our IT, okay, in St. Louis University. So we are already a center of excellence in teacher education, and we are already a center of excellence in information technology. So we have already the experts in our respective institutions. So we were able to tap all of these people to train the teachers.
Ma'am, SLU is so lucky to have you.
Yes.
Yeah,
And we're Mm-mm.
It's like, ma'am, you were able to foresee that they're going to need your training in UP, or you, because ma'am, if you did not have that, if you did not have your graduate diploma, then you will be forced to have it for this school year, but and yet it's too
Yeah.
late. Yeah, so
Uh,
you really
yeah.
have a good foresight, ma'am.
Yeah,
May
I think
third eye
so.
ka
It
ba,
was a
ma'am?
blessing. Wala. Nagkataon. It was really a
Oh, yes.
blessing because I do believe that I will not be of help also to our university if I did not, of course, get all of these courses in the program. So
Yes.
it was really a blessing that I was able to finish all of these essential courses. And I'm also very happy that I was able to choose all of those courses during that time because I was able to get 18, I think, units to be able to finish that course. And all the courses were actually very helpful.
Wow. Wow. Yes, ma'am. So thanks to UPOU. Yes,
Yeah,
ma'am.
thanks
So,
to you, POU.
yes, ma'am. So, this is the last category. Actually, ma'am, there are so many categories provided by auto fitters, but I think that these are the more relevant ones when we look at these categories in vis-a-vis distance education, particularly in higher education in your case. So the last item that I've chosen is on objectification. This refers to the loss in the production process of the subjective element that was used to determine work to a considerable degree. Of course, when we jump to online distance learning, there are really certain teaching functions that were taken away from us. Like, for example, in I could just create one email and then send it to all of the students. And at the same time, when I input a certain quiz in the LMS, it's in an MCQ test that's already checked by the or assessed by the LMS without me going through each paper. Okay, so in distance learning, a lot of um, personal subjective elements are really lost, okay, when we go to distance learning. How did your faculty members, ma'am, react in this way when there's a loss in the subjective element, when there's impersonalization, maybe, so to speak,
Yeah.
in
Well, of
the
course, that's the reason
element?
why, yeah, that's the reason why not everybody is really okay. And they're hoping that we will have the face-to-face the soonest possible time because of this. Uh, Now, while it's true that we can also prepare materials, especially assessment activities for our students, that will just allow the machine, that will just allow all of these applications to help us generate, of course, the scores of our students when we set, of course, the correct scores. Still, I believe that the subjective element can still be there, especially so that there is a need for us, as I said, to contextualize the activities for our students. Because if we're going to set our activities the same as that of the other students across all different programs, we will also miss the opportunity when we need to deal according to the diverse needs of our students. So not all the activities actually via the use of LMS, not all the teachers were able to maximize the assessment activities applications or forms, for example, that will allow them to have this so-called objective types of tests and so on. Because I think some of their activities, some of the things that they do in facilitating their classes has still this so-called subjective element. And in terms of some other functions, that's when, of course, there was this reduction already that happened because instead of preparing a lot of activities for your students, you can just generate, of course, one form to another form, one activity to another activity from one class to the other class. So That's the loss, I think, that we have in the production process. So you do not have to, of course, labor a lot to be able to produce one activity from one class to another class. So that's also the help of the applications that we're using for the delivery of our courses via the LMS that we were able to subscribe in the university.
Yes. Okay. So those are, ma'am, the uh, categories, okay, that I've chosen for us to discuss. Okay, so that we can look
Yes.
at how the theory of industrialization is applied in your case. But when I was reading this theory of industrialization of teaching by Otto Peters, uh, I've never met uh, the maximize how profits could be maximized. Isn't it, of course, when we look at the era of industrialization, that's the time when there are a lot of during in the French revolutions. It's really between the bourgeoisie and the capitalists. Okay, so
Yes.
because of the workers feel that they were oppressed, but I think that was not really or that was undermined in
Mhm.
the theory of industrialization by Otto Peters. Do you agree, ma'am, in this insight?
Come again. The insight is, I'm sorry, I was able to miss what you were able to say.
Oh,
In
oh,
the
yes, ma'am. Because in the theory, uh, it was never mentioned. Maximizing profits was never mentioned at all in this theory. Profits was the topic on profits was really undermined. Okay, so what could be, or maybe, ma'am, of course, I know, ma'am, that SLU is a non-stock non-profit
yes.
educational institution, so maybe we really
Okay.
do not look into the profit aspect, but um still this is an important area even in a non-stock non-profit educational institution, because you will have to be concerned on how you will have to reduce cost and maximize the available resources. Okay, so um, uh, do you think, ma'am, that in looking at this theory of industrialization of teaching, applying it in distance education, do you
Mhm.
think that we should not sideline the topic, ma'am, of uh, profits?
Yeah, I do not think we will really disregard that one because sustainability is very important, Attorney Joy. You cannot deliver a quality service if you will disregard that one. Because as we know, everything that we do for now will really require also the need to sustain, of course, our program. So profit is also considered. And that's the reason why uh, we did not, of course, reduce 50 to 20. Because ideally, it will be of help if you have lesser students in facilitating a distance learning course, right? And because we are not getting, we are not, we did not increase, I mean, our tuition fee despite the change in modality. Hence, we really need to make sure that even if there is this change in modality, that there is a need for us to make sure that we're going to help also our teachers and our students in, of course, coping with the requirements of distance learning. That's the reason why that part was also considered, because we need to make sure that, of course, we need to sustain also the requirements of facilitating all of these different courses. So yeah, that's also very important. That was considered even in choosing what LMS to use. That was also considered
Yes.
because yeah, the financial aspect is also very important. While we are not really gaining a lot, but at least there is something that we should gain also from it for the sustainability of our programs, for us to make sure that we were going to deliver quality education to our students, because quality education will still require, yeah, finances. So we need to, of course, at least not be at the losing end.
Yes. Ma'am, one last question. Do you think, ma'am, that this theory of industrialization is more applicable with stock stock schools? I mean, we're non-stock, non-profit. So do you think, ma'am, that this theory is more fitting with for-profit schools?
There are a lot of concepts in the theory that's still applicable to non-stock, non-profit, I do believe, in the education system. But not everything is, of course, applicable, yeah, to our system. But we're not saying that some areas are not applicable, because a lot of the areas that we were able to discuss a while back are also applicable in the system.
So this is still relevant, even if...
Yeah. A lot of the different, how do you call this one? A lot of the different ideas here, from rationalization to division of labor to mechanization, some inputs here are actually are very important as we deliver our programs. Yes.
Ma'am, thank you so much, ma'am, for your time and for your precious insights in this 1 hour interview. We're able to beat it, ma'am. We're on time. So thank you so much, ma'am.
Okay.
Thank you,
Thank
ma'am.
you very
Yes,
much.
ma'am.
Yeah. Bye-bye, ma'am. We need to
Yes,
go
ma'am.
already to our next program. It's
Yes, ma'am.
wellness. We
Good
need to
luck.
have that.
Yes,
Yeah.
ma'am. Good luck, ma'am, with your exercise.
Bye, attorney.
Bye,
Bye-bye. Bye,
ma'am.
Katsa.
Thank you, ma'am. Bye, ma'am.